Hey guys, Chauncey Phillips here. Welcome to my January 9th DVD update, where I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. Like I always say, guys, enjoy these updates. Definitely give this video a thumbs up. Leave me comments below what you guys thought of the titles I checked out. Any titles coming up which you guys would like me to review for future updates. Now, the first one I got from Shout Factory Scream Factory line. This is one that's been out of print for a really long time. I used to, every time I would go out places, it was one of those titles I would look for in, on DVD. Now it's finally on, back in print and on Blu-ray from, Scream Factory. And this is the William Friedkin film. It's one I've always kind of heard a little bit about, but I never knew too much about the plot or anything about this. And this was called The Guardian. And it's basically, to try and explain, it's a very peculiar concept, the whole movie. Pretty creepy concept as well, because it's kind of like, when I was watching this too, I was thinking of that episode of The Simpsons with a babysitter. It has nothing to do with that, but for some reason that was what I was always thinking of. But it's basically, though, about the beginning of the movie. You see this woman who's like a kind of a nanny to this baby. You see her kind of running off into the woods with this kid, and you kind of see her do something with the kid in front of this tree, and she's like saying all these things, and the kind of baby kind of like dissolves into the tree, kind of like in Ghostbusters 2 with the baby. It's kind of like that a little bit. You see something is going on with this woman, and she's doing something with this, with the tree, and it's very weird. She's kind of like worshiping this tree, and these crazy sequences of her with this tree. She's kind of like the tree woman. But basically, though, it cuts to months later, this new family that has just had a child, and she wants to go back to work, the wife, and the husband is working as well, and they kind of, he's kind of working at home and can't really take care of the baby while he's trying to write and things like that. So they end up hiring this nanny. Of course, they end up hiring this woman who's very strange, and is a woman from the beginning of this movie. And you're kind of like, the whole movie, you kind of know that there's going to be something happening and something that she's doing, and it's kind of this creepy thing. And there's sequences too about them trying to figure out what's going on, and then friends kind of get obsessed with this woman, following her, and then seeing the things she's doing in the woods with the tree. It's very, like I said, it's a very, very, I can't think of any other movie that's kind of like this. It's a very different, out there, and it's one of those kind of horror movies you're going to remember, because it's like there's nothing else like this, and there's been nothing since that I can think of with a similar kind of a weird vibe. They don't do, and there's not too many movies too I can think of like with a babysitter where this kind of thing is happening. But it has on here, though, a new interviews with some of the actors, and then interviews with William Friedkin on the trailer for this movie. But it looks great on Blu-ray. And if you want to see a kind of a weird one movie, like I said too, that was always really hard to find, and a lesser seen movie, I would say to definitely check this out. The next one, this is a follow-up to the movie Contracted. Now, Eric England, who directed the first movie, didn't direct this one or have anything to do with this one. But it's and I really love the first movie. And this movie's not bad. It follows the one guy from the movie. Basically, in the first movie, there was this girl who ended up she sleeps with this guy, and he kind of makes her kind of sick, and you see what's happening to her, and she starts kind of basically falling apart and rotting away. And one of the people that she slept with is basically him in this movie, and he's kind of rotting away, and he's kind of getting tested, and kind of knows that something weird happened to her. They kind of have like a whole plot that there's kind of like the contagion going on, and all around too, so it's kind of spreading around in LA. It's like having all these people, there's kind of contagions of it going on in like the hospital, and they're not really sure exactly what's going on. But it's essentially, though, this one guy, and the things start to happen to him, and it's really kind of gross. So that's what I kind of like about these movies. It kind of has these gross kind of stuff that happens to me. You're just essentially rotting away. Like your eyes are changing. You're like getting like maggots under your skin and worms crawling around. And they kind of touch upon the plot too of whoever it was who started it. It's not the guy, though, from the first one who was one of the writers on You're Next and stuff like that. He wasn't in this, though, but it was a different guy playing his part. But he's basically kind of fumbling around, and it kind of adds to the backstory of it, what I was doing. Like I said, though, it doesn't have anything to do with what Eric England was doing exactly. It's kind of like a new take on different people all working on this. But for what it was, I thought it was okay. I didn't like it as much as I liked the first one. I really loved the first movie. It's still not a bad movie at all. I still would say it's definitely worth checking out. It had some pretty cool sequences and stuff like that, and it definitely does connect in a way. I would say it has the same similar kind of vibe to the first movie. Now, the next one I got from Sony. This is one that I totally forgot when I was doing the best movie list. I forgot that I saw this one this year, and I actually really like this one. It's kind of a movie that I feel like a lot of people either didn't see or kind of like went under the radar. And it's a Woody Allen movie that I really, to me, was one of my favorite Woody Allen movies that I think I've ever seen. I don't think everyone would love this movie, but it stars, Joaquin Phoenix and Emma Stone, and it's called Irrational Man. And it's kind of like, basically, Joaquin Phoenix is this kind of writer who goes to work at the school, and he kind of starts to have a relationship with a younger, woman who's one of his students, played by Emma Stone, and he's kind of like obsessive and really kind of strange, and he has no inspiration in his life, and he's really depressed and drinking and just really upset about his life. He's not happy that, he's having a problem with writing, and that he's kind of teaching, and that his life is kind of going the way it is. And Parker Posey plays the teacher that he's kind of seeing as well. But the one day he ends up going to lunch with Emma Stone at this restaurant, and he ends up overhearing this conversation this woman saying about how bad things are in her life, and how this certain person has kind of screwed up everything in her life. And basically, though, Joaquin Phoenix becomes obsessed about this, about what he hears and what he wants to do to rectify the situation. So it's kind of him planning what he's going to do, and it becomes the whole movie of him obsessing about this certain character. I don't want to ruin what he does, but he just becomes totally, into this, and he's finally inspired again by thinking about this and what he's going to do to this person, what his plan is, and kind of planning the whole thing out. I absolutely love this. It's a very, very strange movie. It's really strange for Woody Allen. To me, it's a different take, a different kind of Woody Allen movie, if you ask me. It's not his similar kind of movies at all. But it has on here, though, on the red carpet premiere and a photo gallery. But I would really recommend this. I love this one. The other one I just finished watching a few minutes ago was from Sony as well, and this is The Diary of a Teenage Girl. And this stars, Alexander Skarsgard and Kristen Wiig. And it's basically kind of a coming of age story. Kind of has like a similar vibe to Ghost World a little bit. The main girl in this is this girl who is basically kind of, like I said, it's coming of age, and her mom is dating Alexander Skarsgård, and she kind of starts to kind of fall in love with him, and she basically starts sleeping with him. It becomes this kind of like her first person that she's ever had sex with, and it's kind of this whole thing of them kind of sneaking around and worrying about Kristen Wiig finding out. And at the same time, she's animating, the girl animates these drawings, and she's kind of really into Robert Crumb and this other animator who was big around this time, and she's kind of doing her own kind of sketches. So there's certain scenes in the movie, too, when they kind of go into, like, animated scenes and stuff like that, like her view on the world and things like that. I actually liked it. Like I said, it has that kind of vibe of Ghost World a little bit, like that similar style to Ghost World, but it's pretty much just her kind of going through this relationship and then kind of going around and with other people and kind of what happens and things like that, and kind of her kind of issues and stuff like that, and she kind of records everything that she does on these tapes and stuff. But I thought it was a really good coming of age story. Has on here, though, a Q&A on the movie, a commentary track, and then a story about bringing the story to life. And the next one I got from 88 Films is, as you guys know, I finally have a Region Free player, so I'm able to play Region B discs from the UK. These are Region B releases from the UK from 88 Films. This is one that I had, was really, when I saw they released this, really wanted to see this one in HD. It's an Italian film that I always really liked this. It's called Anthropophagus. It's also under the name of The Grim Reaper or Savage Island. It has like a reversible cover on here, and this is the one too I always remember too. Anthropophagus, the Beast is another title for it as well. It's got a number of different release titles in this movie, but it's also one of those movies too that was banned. One of the video nasties in the UK, so it was banned for years. But this is finally released, fully uncut. And it's basically, though, about a group of these people who are going to, like, the, what is it, like the Greek islands. I think it's the same kind of, same islands where they filmed the movie Island of Death, which I always like that movie. Some people really hate that film, Island of Death. I always kind of like that movie a lot. It's a really weird movie, though. But it was the same island. They're basically going there, and they get there, and the people are kind of all vanished, and they're missing. It's basically, though, somebody has killed them all, and it's this Grim Reaper character. So it's this really creepy, weird vibe movie. And I always remember the music. It's this crazy kind of music, and I think the guy who did the music for this did the music for Erotic Nights of the Living Dead. I might be totally wrong on that, but I think that was the same guy. But this has on here, though, a feature-length documentary, 42nd Street Memories, the rise and the fall of America's most notorious block, on the films of that block. And it's basically has on here, you can watch this movie in English or Italian. It has the trailers for the film. But this is one of those movies, though, like I said, is a really cool movie that I've always really liked. This one, so cool to see this one on Blu-ray, and cool to actually watch this. Now this one And this one I had not seen in a really long time. This is, their slipcover version of this. It has, the exclusive slipcover from their website from 88 Films. This is, Zombie Flesh Eaters 2, also known as Zombie 3, is pretty much the main title that everyone knows this as. And this is a Region B release as well. Has a DVD in here as well, which is a documentary called, Lucio Fulci Remembered, which is basically kind of talking to people who work with him and other directors and things like that, all about him. So it's a cool documentary with lots of different interviews about him. But this is the second, this is the sequel to Zombie, which was, it has lots of different titles. The first, sometimes it's called Zombie, sometimes it's called Zombie 2, Zombie Flesh Eater, so it has a number of different titles. This one, I had always liked this one. I actually also liked Zombie 4 as well. I knew it was kind of, part 4 was kind of cheesy, but it's still always liked this. And Lucio Fulci actually directed like most of this movie, but then got really sick, I believe, and then he had like 2 other people come in and kind of finish the movie. But this is basically, this kind of chemical that ends up, the guy who's like this terrorist ends up stealing this chemical and ends up basically spilling it, and then it kind of infects him, and then it kind of spreads through this kind of community, like beach kind of town area, with like kind of a vacation-y kind of town area. And I believe it was supposed to be in the Philippines. I know that's where they shot it, but I don't know if that's where it's set or not for sure. They never established that too well, but it's basically, though, the chemical gets out and it kind of is spreading around for different people at this hotel there, and all these people are kind of getting, turning to these zombies, and the birds or everything are changing. I always really like this, and like it says, it has on here interviews with Claudio Fragasso, and a live Q&A, and then a postcard in here and Italian credits. I always, like I said, this is always a cool movie. I always loved all the zombie films. Like I said, I love part 4 as well, so hopefully that comes out to Blu-ray as well. But definitely check this out, and really cool slipcover on this release. And this is one that I had been wanting to see for years. It's only ever been out in like a full screen DVD in the U.S. It's a Sherilyn Fenn movie with, that Solomon King directed. And I really loved his film Wild Orchid, and really like his stuff. And this is a movie called Two Moon Junction with Sherilyn Fenn and Richard Tyson. And to be honest, this is one of my favorite movies I've watched in a long time. It definitely has like a Lynch vibe to it. And the thing that's kind of funny about the Solomon King, like, kind of erotic films, I guess you'd say, they kind of are very much like things like that they do now, but like more hard R versions of like things like The Notebook and things like that. They have this similar kind of stories to them, and like that. Those, I don't know. To me, they really remind me of them, but kind of go out further. And this is basically Sherilyn Fenn is this girl living in like a small southern town, and she kind of comes from this really rich family, and she's engaged with this guy that she really doesn't care too much for, and kind of the circus ends up coming to town. Richard Tyson is the guy who works the circus, and she kind of starts to like looking at him and starts becoming kind of obsessed with him, and they kind of start to sleep together, and it's kind of like their romance together, this kind of forbidden romance, because she's, engaged to be with this guy who she's never slept with, and I don't know, I love this movie, and the guy, who was from Fantasy Island was in this movie. A lot of different people were in this movie. Really, really great film. Louise Fletcher is the grandmother in this movie, who's like the head of the whole family, and she's really creepy in this movie. But it's pretty much just like this erotic film about their like love and things like that, but really well done, really great music. Like I said, I love these kind of movies when they're done really well, and this is a great one. Really great picture on this one, and I would highly recommend checking this out, especially if you're a fan of Sherilyn Fenn stuff. The next one from Olive Films, this is one that I had always liked this movie, and I guess I can never figure out. I don't think it was made for the theaters. I think it was, I don't know if it was or not, but some things were saying that it was made for TV. So I don't know if it was made for like HBO or Showtime or something like that. But this was Stephen King. Sometimes They Come Back, and they made 2 sequels to this one. And this is, like I said, from Olive Films. This stars Tim Matheson. It's basically about a guy who was lived in this town when he was a kid. There are these terrible, like, greaser bullies that kind of chased him and his brother into this tunnel. And the greaser kids end up killing his brother, and then they end up basically, killing his brother, and then this train comes through the tunnel and kills all the greasers except for one of them, and then Tim Matheson's character. And years later, he's come back to the town to be a teacher there, and all of a sudden, these greasers start coming back little by little. The ones that were responsible for killing his brother and die in this tunnel start coming back. It's a very creepy, really well-made movie. And, they basically kill one person, then they come back one at a time. Very creepy, and really, like, I cry really pretty bad at the end of this movie. Like, really bad. This is a really, I feel like a seldom watched movie, but really cool. The next one from Twilight Time. These are the limited to 3000 edition. I believe these are all 3000 editions. Twilight Times, Screen Archive or Twilight Times. You can get them from their website. This one is called Born Free. This is basically this was a true story. And they actually did documents and stories on this lion cub, and it was about this husband and wife who basically ended up getting these 3 cubs that, because their mother had ended up attacking someone in Africa and killing them, and they had to put her down. So then they ended up taking care of these 3 lions, and 2 of them ended up going to the zoo, but the smallest one, they couldn't, do that to her. So they ended up basically going and trying to raise the lion. And then it gets to a point when the lion gets too big, and what they're going to do, and they don't want to put the lion into a zoo, and they really want to release the wild into to freedom, because they say it was born free. Don't want to lock this one up at a zoo, and it's kind of them trying to train this lion that was basically housebroken, lived in the house like a cat, and wasn't dangerous at all, and they have to kind of train it so it could survive in the wild. And that's essentially what this one was. And it has on here, though, isolated score, audio commentary track, and trailers. The next one is 1984, and this is a Screen Archives one as well, from Twilight Time. This is one that I had always wanted to see. I always hear people talking about this movie, and it's a really trippy movie, and there's also 2 tracks of audio on this movie. They don't mention this, but one of them is from the Eurythmics that did the music to it. It was just kind of all this controversy to this movie because the director didn't want them to put this music on it. He wanted to have the classic score, and I didn't realize that when I was watching it. So at first I was watching it with the classic score, and then I was like, wait, I don't hear any Eurythmics music. Then I realized I switched it, and then I kind of heard their subtle music and listened to it the rest of the movie with the Eurythmics music. And I think the classic score was working a little bit better with this movie, to be honest. I don't know, there's some of the cool aspects to the Eurythmics music, but the movie's basically like in this society where everything's controlled. It's like a sort of a sexless society, and everything, they kind of like breed things through like test tubes and everything. And it's basically, though, with John Hurt's character, and he's working in this factory, and he's kind of changing history, and he's kind of putting it into the facts, and it's very hard to explain, but he's kind of erasing history and kind of putting in what they want to say, and changing things, and changing. It's all this kind of about changing and control, but he ends up meeting this girl that he really likes, and like I said, it's a sexless society. They're not supposed to be sleeping together, and he ends up sleeping with them, and it's kind of what ends up happening with this, and it's a really pretty weird ass movie, but I like this a lot. And the next one from Twilight Time as well, and this one came out before, and a couple years back, and it's back in print now. This is the new edition from the limited edition series, and I think this one is this one's 3,000 units as well. And this is Mysterious Island, and this is Ray Harryhausen did the animation for this, the stop motion. Really great motion animations for this. It's basically about, during the war, it's about these soldiers that end up escaping the war in this hot air balloon, and the hot air balloon ends up kind of going down on this island in the middle of nowhere, and there's all these gigantic creatures and things like that. There are giant lobsters, all kind of giant animals and things like that there, and it's kind of them figuring out how they're going to get out of there, and they also come across other people there, and it's kind of the whole thing about them sort of trying to figure out how they're going to get off of this island, and also dealing with all these creatures and weird kind of monsters and stuff that are there. Has on here an isolated score, audio commentary track. Ray Harryhausen on Mystery Island, a short on the movie, and a TV spots, but a really cool stop animation movie. The next one from PBS is from Reading Rainbow, the new edition. This one has Miss Nielsen is Back. And I always remember that Miss Nielsen's Back book, but it has on here the one is him gets. LeVar ends up getting turned into like a monster. It was a pretty cool scene of him like getting turned into this creepy monster in this movie. And then he also does one when he rides the Amtrak, like the auto train, the one where you sleep on it. And I always remember as a kid going on that auto train to Florida. So I kind of to me it was kind of cool just seeing him on this Amtrak and kind of poking around the train and like seeing people, and like he goes and I don't know. I love Reading Rainbow. It's one of those things that I really loved as a kid. And it's kind of cool to watch it again. The only thing that I wish is for one of them they would like really surprise me and put the original openings. Yeah, I know they like to keep that one, but I love those original openings. That's the only thing I would say, was just do one called like the retro version and have like the original, because I think people would like to hear that, the original, like the unsped up version of the song with the cool original animation. But this has like 2 classic episodes and then 2 of the later ones, and one with him when he's cooking this recipe, which I really liked as well. The next one from from Dark Sky Films is called Convergence, and this stars Ethan Embry, and it's basically about, there's like a terrorist attack thing going on. There's this guy ends up going to this building where these people are held hostage, and they believe there's a bomb in there, and you see basically there's an explosion. He ends up waking up in the hospital, and it's kind of a weird thing of him waking up in this hospital. He's kind of like, what is going on? It's very strange. Everybody seems kind of like dated with these kind of weird looks to them, and he sees like his captain is there kind of talking to him, and everything seems off. It's kind of like, what has happened? Did he not make it? Is this some kind of a weird afterlife thing going on? What is happening here? And then he ends up kind of venturing out into the hospital. He starts coming across other characters and things like that, people who are in this hospital, trying to figure out what is going on and trying to figure out if he can stop this person who, caused the bomb and the explosion, and trying to figure out, how he can get out of this place, and basically, like I said, if he's dead or if he's in some kind of a limbo or what it is. It's basically just him kind of trying to figure all that out, and has on here a making of, deleted scenes and a trailer. And the next one from Dark Sky Films as well. And this is a really cool documentary called I Am Thor, about the guy who was a rock musician in the 80s who never really got to the point of having huge fame. He was in Rock and Roll Nightmare, and then one other movie, and he was almost going to be in Ventures in Babysitting playing Thor, and then something ended up happening and they ended up not going with him last minute. Because he kind of has like, the movie was shot over a period of, I think, from year 2000 up until 2014, I believe. So it goes through a long time. There's even scenes of him going to, like, Monster Mania and going to, Monster Palooza, and going to a number of different conventions, going to Comic-Con, like in 2001. It was kind of cool to see it then. But it's basically about him kind of trying to have a comeback and kind of going and having a new tour and trying to bring back his band in the 80s, and kind of shows you all the kind of problems that are going on with him trying to bring back the band. I really like this. It's got it's kind of a documentary that's done kind of funny, and also sometimes it's kind of sad, the things that are going on as well. But it's one of those ones too where you're really rooting for him, because like I said, it's a documentary, but it almost plays like it's not, but it is. It's all real, but it kind of just feels like a movie the way they cut it. It really works almost just like a true like Spinal Tap kind of movie or something. The next one from Image is one called Uncaged. This is actually a pretty fun movie. Mainly, I love the best was the friends in this movie. It's about this guy, though, who gets this letter about something with his uncle, and going to this cabin. He ends up going out there, and he ends up like going out that night, and something ends up happening. He ends up waking up in the middle of the woods, butt naked, and he has no idea what has happened and why. He starts to think, is he sleepwalking? What is going on? The friends are all kind of wondering what's going on. There's also this subplot of something with the uncle, and he's kind of trying to plan something, and you see all these chains, and like if something is going on. But basically, though, he ends up strapping this camera to himself to try and, film what he does at night and what's going on when he's doing these sleepwalkings or what is going on. And it's basically what he ends up coming out. And like, there's no spoiler here that it involves an aspect of werewolves and things like that. And like I said, the friends in this are really funny. Like, it's really like comedic, ridiculous dialogue that the friends are saying to him, and kind of saying all these kind of strange things to him. I don't know, that was my favorite part of this, was the friends, and just their scenes of interactions between them, kind of talking about what they think is going on, and if they think he did something bad at night, and what they're saying to him. And like, I don't know. I thought it was a really fun movie. It has on here, though, a commentary track and then outtakes of the movie. But it is worth checking out. Like I said, it's kind of a comedy horror movie. The next one from E1 is Krampus: The Reckoning, and this is from E1 and Uncorked Films, and this is basically a movie about, it's another different Krampus movie. There's been a lot of Krampus films lately, and this one is basically about this girl who, basically, it's the Krampus in this isn't like killing kids, it's basically killing like parents and adults and stuff. They've done bad things to kids and stuff like that. And in the beginning of the movie, you see this terrible the mom and the stepfather, the boyfriend of the one, and they basically end up you see Krampus end up killing them, and then the girl ends up getting put into kind of like a children's kind of hospital, psych ward kind of place like that. And they're kind of basically trying to figure out what happened to the parents, because the girl was there, this kid was there, and it's kind of them talking to her and trying to figure out what exactly has happened, and who had killed the parents, and exactly what was going on. And that's essentially what it is. And then things start to happen at this hospital, and then it's kind of like, what is going on here? And Krampus is, like I said, is going around killing the adults of these kids that have kind of done wrong and bad things and stuff like that. Has on here, though, a making of video and an auto commentary on that. And the last one from Strand Releasing is really strange documentary called In the Basement, and it's basically what it is about people in their basements and like the weird things people do in their basements. And it's like this guy with these weird collections, this guy with like a shooting range thing, these like groups of like, it's like all kinds of these weird sex people, like all these quirky, weird, some like really bad things. It's like all this, like that's basically what it is. It's just kind of filming them in the basement and them kind of doing their thing. It's very, very peculiar. I mean, if you want to see a strange movie, just basically watching people, weird things people do in the basement with these collection of animals and all this strange stuff, I guess check this out. But anyway though, guys, that's all for this DVD Blu-ray update. Thanks again for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.